In this lesson, we'll take a look at how we can use the brush tool to modify the position of our topology very, very quickly and intuitively. So let's jump into TopoGun here. This is 05 begin. And so you can open that up. There's just a little bit of geometry up here on the chest, and we're going to use this for illustration here of the brush tool. So let's go ahead and activate the brush, and you can see right above extrude. You can see there's a number of options associated with the brush, and this is going to enable us to move these points around on the surface in different ways using a brush type of workflow. If you've used sculpting applications, then this is going to be very familiar to you. Okay, so there are different settings that we can talk about and also different ways of working. So the first selection here, you can see there's these little sort of radio buttons here that you can choose to define what it is you're going to be doing with your brush. So initially it's set to move. And so just without changing any of the settings, I can come in here and you can see as I hover over these vertices, they turn red. And you can see the ones that are inside that central circle are all red. And then the ones that are inside that outer circle are sort of halfway red. Okay, and that's the area of fall off. And so you can see I can click and drag to move those points around. So as I'm clicking, holding down and moving in a direction, those points are moving as well. You can see as they leave the fall off area, they cease to move. So it's not like I'm taking a point and just moving it all the way over here. At some point it's going to leave that fall off area and then you're not going to be able to move it anymore. Okay. Now you can change the different values here. So our brush size is pretty straightforward. I can increase the brush size with this numerical input. Okay. We can also change the brush size by using our right mouse button. And you can see that automatically changes that value. So I'm just holding down the right mouse button and dragging. There's also the area of fall off, which we can change numerically here. And you can see that outer rim growing. So the area from 100% and then the fall off to no effect at all, going out to the outer portion. To change that interactively, you can hold down Shift and use your right mouse button. So again, just right mouse button and then Shift right mouse button to interactively change those values. Okay, we can also change our brush strength, so we can increase the strength numerically here on how the whatever it is that we're doing is affecting our vertices, how strongly. We can change the strength here, or to change the strength interactively, we can use our middle mouse button. And you can see as I increase the green amount by dragging, it takes the brush strength up, or I can change it down. I'm just going up and down. Okay, and I can change that strength down. Okay, so brush size, fall off, brush strength, they can all be modified here or interactively using the right mouse button to change the brush size, Shift right mouse button to change the fall off, and then middle mouse button to change the strength. Okay, and again, move gives us the ability to just move these points around. Now you can see as I click on the border, it's actually affecting those edges along the border. If you don't want to affect the border edges, you can turn on this little checkbox up here, keep border. That will remove the ability to actually modify the border. So all the changes that we're making are happening on the inside. Okay. If you only want to use a selection of points and anything that's unselected, you don't want it to be affected, you can say use selected. Okay. Let's try that out. So instead of move, we'll change this to select. And let's go ahead and bring our brush size and everything down. And then we can just use this to select points. Now if we change this back to move, turn on use selected, you can see that I can move these points around just fine, but anything that's not selected is not going to be affected. Okay, so if you just have a selection of points that you want to be able to manipulate, you can select those and then turn on use selected. Now if you're using a tablet, you can actually go ahead and turn on the sensitivity by turning on tablet, and then you can change the values here for size effect and strength effect on how the pressure of your tablet will affect the size and the strength. And if you like to see that animated, you can keep this little button on. So as you come over with light pressure, I'm not using a tablet currently, but if you come in here with a tablet, your size will change if you have the size effect on and strength effect depending on your pressure. Okay. And if you want to show the vertices, you can see here, you can see those. You can turn this on, otherwise you can turn it off, and you can see you don't really get an indication of what vertices, how those are being affected. Okay, so keep those little settings in mind up there. All right, so let's take a look at a little bit more depth now that we've looked at all of these settings here. We've got move, which allows us to kind of move things around. If we've got topology there, but we want to just kind of move it around a little bit and nudge it around, you can use move. We can also relax. So you can see we've got some topology. The topology is okay, but it's not really distributed very well. So we can come in here, and just by clicking through here, we can kind of relax all of these points and just kind of space them out more evenly just by clicking and dragging across. Okay, you can come up here and kind of relax these out as well, kind of get a much better distribution. We've also got inflate. So if we inflate, it's actually pulling it off of the surface. So in some cases, you may have geometry that's cutting through different areas of your reference mesh, and you can use inflate to pull that out. Okay. Now we also have two different options for projecting the points back down onto the reference mesh. So if I kind of pull these up, you can kind of see that these are off of the surface. Okay. So we've got S project and N project. And so think of the S project as projecting these points back down to the surface based on our screen space. So looking at these, if I come over this with S project, you can see it doesn't look like really anything has happened here. Let me increase my brush size here, and I'll go ahead and paint through on these. But it actually, since it hasn't moved from this angle, but it's actually projected it back down onto the surface based on our screen angle. So basically straight from where we're looking at it. So again, if I come in here, you can see that, for instance, these points down here are sticking off of the surface. If I come in here and paint those through, it doesn't look like anything's changed, but actually they're projected back down. So that'll project it along that particular axis. If you'd like to project it along the normal, you can do that as well. So here, kind of pulling these off, go to N project, okay? And so here, we're looking at it from this angle, and we come in here and start to paint those down. You can see it's actually moving back down along the normal instead of straight back along our camera view, which is slightly different from using the S project. Okay, so both of these will go ahead and constrain those points back down to the surface of our reference mesh. Okay, and we also have the ability to come in and select points very, very quickly. Okay, and then standard will just pull out or push in the point. So go to standard. If I just stroke across this, think of this as kind of a standard sculpting brush, just coming across here, you can see it's kind of pulled it out. So not necessarily bulging it or inflating it, but pulling it out towards us. So if we'd like to project that back down, we can go ahead and increase our brush size here. Project it back down to the surface. Okay, go back to relax. Maybe relax that back out. Take our brush size down a little bit. And it's just a nice way of, if you've kind of gone through the process of adding your topology, but it's gotten a little out of whack and you don't want to go in and modify each point individually, this brush tool is a really great way of kind of really intuitively moving around your topology without actually changing the topology. You're actually just kind of moving it around. So if you wanted to kind of pull a little bit more of the polygons or the points toward the bottom of this chest area and kind of make a little bit more of a crease in there, you can real quickly and easily do that with move. And then you can come in, and if you wanted to relax that back out, you can do that. So it's just a nice way of really quickly kind of smoothing out your polygons, distributing your polygons on your topology mesh. And there's a lot of different options in here, a lot of different ways that it'll work, and then a lot of different ways that you can modify the brush, things like the brush size, fall off, and strength here, and then there's some options up here to keep in mind. So if you have your topology and you'd like to reshape it, modify it, smooth it out, project it back down to the surface, the brush tool could be a really great option for you, so make sure to check that out. In the next lesson, we're going to go ahead and take a look at working with symmetry. So there's some really nice options for working with symmetry. We'll spend a couple lessons talking about that. So we'll go ahead and do that next.